Well, I kind of grasp the concept of it. I don't fully grasp it.
Slipstream is a kind of a complicated thing. It's kind of when, like, imagine you're walking through the desert and you get to a gully where at one time there was water, and you go to walk through it, and then there's like some slippery mud at the bottom, and you just slip and you go right down into it like a slide.
See, that's not what I understand it to be at all. Not even a little.
That's not it?
No.
Right over the head.
Slipstream just means people put fantasy and sci-fi and went bloop and wrote them together. That's it. It's actually really a complicated term for a simple idea.
Well,
but sci-fi itself is fantasy. It's just more scientific based.
No.
See? I don't quite grasp the concept correctly.
Yes, what are you trying to say?
I heard what Katie said just now, but I missed all the rest of it. I didn't hear any of that.
Pavarti was just going to school us on what science fiction is.
Oh, boy. Okay, that's a lesson we need to have. I like that.
Let's do it, Pavarti. Do it.
No, I am not. This is not going to be the Pavarti show. Jess has to talk too.
Where did we leave off before we restarted? Uh-oh, my camera's way out of focus. Where did we leave off before we restarted?
I don't
Jess
know.
was talking about what an awesome editor she is.
Oh, that's great. Yes. Let's go back to your editing for a minute. So you edit not only the Uncommon anthologies, you also just got hired by Evolve Publishing to be an editor. Is that correct?
Right.
And then you also edit for private authors by commission, right?
Right, freelance. I do a lot of freelance work. Mostly that's where most of my clients come in, is the freelance work. And as far as I can tell, the Evolve Publishing is going to work about the same. I can't really get into details about that because that's giving away somebody else's secrets, and we don't want to do that. But for Evolve Publishing, I just got hired on, so I'm new. I'm the newbie, and I'm gonna have to get used to their process and learn how things are going. But just based on what I've seen so far, they hold everybody to a higher standard of expectations, and they have a very, what do you call that, strenuous process for when they're selecting which works they'll publish, which ones they'll accept in the first place. And what I was talking about earlier was I don't really do that. When I get an author send me their work, I give them a quote and I tell them about how long it's going to take me and what I think I will need to work on. And I give them my absolute worst. And by worst, I mean my best. I give it to them as brutally as I possibly can so that they are fully prepared, because that first pass you get back from me, a lot of authors are like, okay, yeah, this isn't too bad. I can handle this. And then they take a few days and they come back and they're like, okay, I need a little bit of help. I can handle this, but I need a little bit of help. It's very, very involved, especially that first process. But I don't turn anyone away. If the story needs developmental help or structural help, I'll work you through that, and we'll do whatever we need to do. We'll go as deep as we need to go. And the time frame and whatnot, the turnaround, it reflects all the work that we're doing. So it can be a bit overwhelming, but I think my process for the most part is very straightforward and easy. That first pass is always the hardest, but once you get beyond that, the rest of it's very easy. It's smooth sailing. It's just the potential is there. The framework is there. I just want to make sure everything else is in place as well before we move on to all the grammar and everything else. So that's basically my process. I just throw a lot of shit at you for the first round, and then after that, we just we do the other stuff, the grammar stuff.
So you do the full-on developmental editing pass, followed by the line-by-line edits, the copy edits.
Yes, I do both. We start with developmental edits, and a lot of stories won't need it. Especially the short stories that come in. Could be fixing a line or two here or there, giving a little bit more background or taking out some background, things like that. Working to make sure that the character has an emotional arc, or a physical change or some kind of change from beginning to end. just making sure all of the elements are in place so that the story accomplishes whatever the author intended it to. And a lot of stories, they won't even need that. Like I said, especially the short stories, because most authors, especially ones who've been doing this for a while and they write novels and things like that, they've got the structure and the development parts down. They just need somebody to come in and polish it off. So, sometimes that's all I do. I go in and basically I'm doing proofreading for some stories. And a lot of times authors will send their short stories to another editor before they send it to me, so that helps too. And that reduces some of the work that we have to do between the two of us. But, there's a broad spectrum, especially for anthologies, like the Uncommon anthologies. I was working at one point, I was juggling 2 anthologies. So I had 50 authors and 50 stories. But because there's such a broad spectrum of what type of editing each story needs.
Wow. Now, what is your background? How did you get into editing?
When, let's see, in 2013, after I had my 3rd daughter, my husband and I, we decided I would stay home with her instead of working like I did with the oldest 2. And just on a whim, I had more time on my hands. So on a whim, I took a writing course online, and it just really snowballed from there. I was writing and could not stop. Even when it's hard, and I can't force myself to write, I'm writing something else. And the editing, I got started with that. It started with critique groups, and it just snowballed from there. My skills as an editor evolved a lot more quickly than my skills as a writer did. There's always new things to learn. And of course, I have to update my style guides and whatnot to reflect the current conventions. But editing, for the most part, once you get your feet underneath you and you have a process, you establish a workflow, and you learn what you're capable of and what you can do, what you can accomplish, and you're set. So that's why I enjoy editing, is that as long as I stay on top of the current conventions and what needs to be done, then I'm set, I'm good. But the writing and the publishing, that part is it's always changing. It's like walking across quicksand. So editing has been throughout this process since 2013. It's always been that thing that I've held on to that kept me above the quicksand.
Okay, awesome. Now, how did you end up? I kind of asked this earlier, but we're having all sorts of technical difficulties with this particular broadcast. How did you end up working with Pav? What got you 2 together?
An online workshop. We had a mutual friend that we met via Twitter. I think I met him on Twitter first, and then Facebook and whatnot. You know how those things go. And we took this online. What?
I said Tinder?
Is there a Tinder for authors? That'd be awesome.
Awesome. No, not quite there. We don't go that far. I don't have a Tinder profile. I'm just about everywhere else, though. Yeah, so we met
Grindr?
via mutual friends, and it went from there. It was like magic. We just clicked.
That's awesome.
And I don't care.
Yeah, and you guys do have some a strange relationship with some unusual pet names for each other. I've learned that much as well.
Well, Jess and I, one of the things that first drew us to each other, I think, was that neither of us were writing inside any kind of box or hexagon or really shape of any sort. And yet there was so much meat in the work, even if it wasn't polished. Like, editing Jess's work is fabulous. It's so much fun because there are so many layers to what she's trying to say. And as an author, getting a critique from someone who wasn't afraid to tell me, this really sucks. Stop, delete all this, and start over, because this is horrible, and I know you can do better. And I want that. As, a couple? Are we a couple? As a partnership, maybe? I don't know. We're brutally honest, which has its ups and its downs, because there have been times one of us had to call the other at like 10 o'clock at night, like, are you mad at me? side is that we really are able to accomplish something when we work together that I think is rare, which is focusing on the work. Not focusing on our own egos, not focusing just on what we want something to be, but really getting down to how good can we get this work. And I find that incredibly refreshing. It's one of the reasons why I always recommend Jess as an editor and why I've used her as an editor myself. I published with Evolved, and I was so thrilled when she came through. I had no doubt that she would pass the very stringent editing requirements that they have there, because I've worked with her. And it's just so refreshing to be able to have someone that you can completely trust with your work and know that they're not going to worry about pussyfooting around telling you when something sucks. Because we need to hear that. Even the most accomplished authors need to hear, this one's no, this one's a no.
Yeah, and that's part of being an author, is being able to take that criticism and not just curl up into a little ball and cry like I did when I got rejection letter from an editor a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh my God, I'm just gonna go away and die and not speak to anyone for a week. But you have to come back from that shit, because if you don't, you're never really going to be an author. You're never really going to learn. You're never going to improve your work and your craft, and you're never going to be able to deal with all the trolls out there that, even if your work is fabulous, there's still going to be people that are going to pick your ass apart. And you've got to be able to take it. You've got to be able to take
Absolutely.
it and roll it.
Absolutely. I've been working in professional arts for over 20 years. I started in theater. I worked off Broadway, and then I was able to work on Broadway for a while, and then moved to DC and was able to work in the DC theater scene, mostly studio theater, and eventually started writing. So my background comes more from a theater background. I was trained as a dramaturg. So what I tend to bring to things is I'm always looking at it from the audience perspective, because that's what I was trained in. Jess comes and she's always looking at it from a craft perspective, because that's what she's trained in. And between the two of us, I think very often we're able to get down to, what is the core of the story? What's the core of the emotion? And how can we best get that across? So co-writing with her was a hoot and a half, because we're both a little bit nuts. We both love monsters. We both love erotica. We both love, religion in our stories. So we kind of just threw it all together into this big mashed potato pot and ended up with Sin Eater, and it's awesome. I love that book.
So now, because you co-wrote that, tell me a little bit about what the co-writing process is between the two of you guys. Do you write a chapter and then Jess writes a chapter, or do you both add in things everywhere, or how do you do it? What's the process?
It's both of us. It's both of us. We'll sit down. We actually open up a Google document, and we're both writing. We've got the little chat window open too, so we're constantly communicating at the same time. And it's a lot of it is just I'm bare bones, and I tend to rush through things, and I leave out a lot of emotion and a lot of descriptive details. And Pav comes in and she does her magic, and it complements. Our two styles complement each other in a way that makes something more than what either one of us could do alone, and I'm always so in awe of everything I read from Pav. So it was really the first time I worked with her. I don't want to say I was nervous, but I was like, man, I'm the little guy here, I'm the underdog. Why do you want to write with me? And, it was just magic, and it worked out so well. So,
you're so
yeah.
sweet. Aw, that's ridiculous. So both Jeff and the other editor who I work with regularly, Philip Lee, he does all of my science fiction and is also phenomenal, and I highly recommend him. Both of them are regularly getting up my ass about the fact that I'm totally histrionic. Like, everything I write is, if somebody's walking in a room, I've got them like skipping and throwing confetti. That's just how I do everything. So working with Jess made it possible so that was reining me in, but also excited about the same thing I was excited about. So she reined me in enough that I wasn't going to be completely histrionic, but also it allowed us to go places that I sometimes don't go with my other work, because either I get nervous about it and stop myself, or I worry that readers aren't going to want that. And Jess and I would just get really excited about something and be like, fuck it, let's do it.
Oh yeah, it's your book. It's your story.
So well is that we could do that.
The grinding is back.
Wasn't me.
No grinding.
Co-writing is a hard thing to do because you've got to make sure, like you guys were talking about, that your styles kind of mesh together. And it's good that you guys can layer
Well,
over
we've
the
been
top
in
of each
critique
other like
group
that.
together.
Right.
Okay, so PK, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, good. You guys are shaking your heads. I'm like, oh crap, am I frozen again? Damn it. So you have some standalone novels of your own. You've got the Jakatu Vector, and it's a series. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, Jakatu Vector is the first book in the Jakatu series, and it is science fiction. It's really, there's aliens and there's cyborgs and there's futuristic dystopian Earth, but I think it's probably more akin to classic sci-fi. That's what I was really trying to hold to. I love Octavia Butler. I love Frank Herbert. I love L. Ron Hubbard, and you can all laugh, and I don't care, because Battlefield Earth is the best book ever written. So I really wanted to put something together that was my take on that epic, grand, classic sci-fi approach. And there's 3 books. They're all plotted. The next one will hopefully be out this fall if I get my ass on schedule. But the first one's out, and it's done really well, and it was so much fun to write. And Holly Heisey did the cover, which is an absolute treat. It's just exquisite. Like, it gives me thrills just to think about the cover, because it's exactly what I wanted. And she totally captured everything that I was trying to accomplish in the writing of the book in one single image, which is, and it was probably the scariest book I've ever written, though, because while I've done literary fiction, and I have a Muslim superhero novel, and I have lots of short stories, and all of them, while risky in their own way, weren't risky. They were risky to put out and see whether anybody would bother to read them. 2 is the first thing that was really important to me as an artist trying to do something that my heroes did. So being a great big sci-fi snob, it was really terrifying to put something out that would be judged alongside that same work that I've spent my whole life loving. I'm proud of it. It was a lot of fun to do. It was a lot of hard work. Philip totally kicked my ass, like, up and down the street, and I'm so thankful for it, because the book is tremendously better now than it was when I first wrote it. Yet never published that an editor. Anybody who's watching, ever, always get an editor. So yeah, that's Jakatu.
Okay.
It's available everywhere.
So, Jess, what about your books? Tell us a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your books, Jess.
I'm starting slowly. I'm going very slowly. I write mostly shorts now. I'm not in the novelist category yet, so I don't have full-length books out yet. The ones that I'm working on, I just got one back from a developmental editor. It's Faith of the Fallen, which I'm probably going to have to change the name of the title, because it's also the title of one of Terry Goodkind's books. And that's not going to work at all, because I'm a big fan of his work. So it should have occurred to me sooner. But anyway, my work is, there's a lot of fantasy involved, and I like to take what we know about the Bible and about what people believe happened, and how everything got started, and I like to play with that. I like to take the rules that were established and change them a little bit and try to approach that from a different perspective. So what I did was I went with Lucifer as a POV character, and I tried to tell his story. Why would he do the things that he did? He went from being the light bearer, God's favorite angel, to being something else entirely, the complete opposite, to being, God's antagonist, his number one enemy. And he, in my mind, that's one of the most interesting characters. I'll say characters in fiction, but one of the most interesting people, I guess, from the Bible. I hate to say that he's a fictional character in a book, but that's kind of how I see a lot of that. But and I found that had to be such an interesting story. I wanted to read that story, so I was like, well, I want to write that story because it's been told and retold time and time again, but I haven't told it yet, and I have a different perspective on it, so I'd like to try that. And then it's also very much influenced by Dante's Inferno.
Oh,
so
sweet.
I've got a lot of that.
Hey, is that a kitty you've got there?
No, it's a puppy. It's my little
Aw.
puppy.
Oh, hi, sweetie. Well, she just needs some love too.
That's it.
Well,
So
now that
that's another thing that really brought Jess and I together was this interest in historical and mythological and religious retellings. It's thanks to her that I wrote Book of Lilith, which is my retelling of the Garden of Eden story. And it's a short story. It's just a little something that was in the Mosaics anthology, which was an intersectional feminist anthology that I put together with Kim Wells and Jess edited. But I've always been fascinated by Lilith, and finally having someone else who was like, you know what, you need to just do it. You need to stop worrying about all the things that stop you from writing about religious topics and just write the character. And when I sat down and finally did it, it was so exciting. It's really a different book that got a lot of really cool attention.
I absolutely love learning about different faiths and different religions, both current and ancient religions from around the world. And I think that there are so many thousands of stories that can be told based on these myths or lore or faiths, if you want to say. I think that's a really interesting subject to delve into. I think it's really cool because whether you are a believer in Christianity or whatever religion you kind of point yourself toward, there are so many awesome little anecdotal tales and things like that can be turned into stories that are really interesting and that obviously appeal to people. So I don't know. I think that's...
The Bible is a really, really good book.
Yeah.
It's a good book because you believe in what it's saying in a religious level, or whether or not it's a good book because it's full of really powerful stories. That's personal. But at the end of the day, I think we can all agree that there are stories in there that are powerful and that do have allegorical meanings and are really interesting, or else it wouldn't have lasted this long. It just wouldn't have. I enjoy that. I enjoy talking about all of that and playing with those tropes and assumptions that go along with religion.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love it when people can explore a different view on those same subjects too. Something we may have been taught growing up either in school or in church or by our parents or friends, and then kind of taking a different twist on that to see where you can bring it. Where's Jess going? Jess, where are you going?
Are you on the toilet?
She's muted. Get off the toilet.
No, I have to bring my dog outside to pee because she's whining. I brought her twice before we got started because I knew she was going to do this. Asshole. Yeah, now she's peeing. Twice.
Well, that's one of the things that we were saying, Jason. That's what was so interesting to me about Lilith, is that Lilith isn't actually in the Bible. She's not mentioned. There's an allusion to there having been a woman created before the story of Eve, but it's just one line in Genesis, and she's never given a name actually in the canonical Bible, but she's taken on this power in the Christian religion, but also in the Judaic religion specifically, has huge traditions like not naming children for 8 days, and that's all based on Lilith. Interesting lore to play with, and it's a little bit more freeing because it's not an actual biblical character, but it's still in that world.
That's cool because it gives you something to work with, but not necessarily hard lines to follow.
Right.
Which is nice. So did we lose Jess? Are you frozen, Jess?
Not on my end.
Oh, okay, good.
Please still maybe.
Oh, but we've got your cute profile picture that I can see now, so that's great.
Oh.
So,
What is it?
So let's chat about canyons a minute here. The three of us are in this month's canyons, and you two, both Pav and Jess, have written for and worked with canyons for quite a while now, right?
Nope, this is my first time.
Is it really?
Yep.
No kidding. I thought that you were a longtime contributor.
Nope, this is my first story in a canyons, and I am super excited because the talent that goes into these little anthologies is amazing. I'm excited to join your ranks.
No, it's fun. I found Daniel kind of by accident. I put a call out looking for people who publish short fiction because I'd written a couple little short stories, and somebody turned me on to Daniel, and I don't know, it's awesome, all the stories in there. I mean, and every month I love it because you can just sit down and read the whole issue at once if you want, which is really nice for me because I don't always have time for a big thick novel, even though I enjoy them. I'm busy, so I've got stuff to do, and it's nice to be able to squeeze these little stories in here and there. So cool. It'll
Do you
be.
get physical issues of those?
What's that?
Do you get like a physical copy of it, or is it just like an ebook?
They have an ebook and a print version available. I think this is Canyons number 15. So 15 of these monthly short story magazines, I guess you'd call them. And then he has several omnibus editions out as well. I'm not sure how many, but he kind of takes the best of throughout the year and compiles them into an omnibus. But yeah, they're pretty cool. It's a lot of fun. I'm geeked for people to be able to read it and to share it around. And then Katie and I also have a big anthology coming out. Is it tomorrow, Katie?
Tomorrow.
Wow. Well, when this show gets broadcast, it won't be tomorrow. It'll be the 31st. But yeah, it's called A Plague of Dragons, and it is not magical realism. It's straight fantasy, right, Katie?
Well, it's a bunch of different genres within fantasy, because I think you have, David has more of a sci-fi. His is more like, what is that? RPG style.
Okay.
So it's all realms of fantasy, kind of touching on different ones.
Okay. And kind of the idea with the anthology was that they were all going to be dragon stories, or stories with dragon shifters in them, with a little bit of a steamy side as well. And that's kind of what
Changed up everything. I remember it was originally supposed to be based off of fairy tales as a backing.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And then we kind of canceled that midstream, but mine has the Little Mermaid as its backing.
Is it little? I didn't get that.
Really?
Really? There was no singing in the whole thing.
No, he doesn't sing. He doesn't sing.
Singing a Little Mermaid song.
Yeah.
How did that come into play?
He wants to be part of her world.
I don't know. Little Mermaid was great, though. I love that movie.
Well, if you think about it, he's a character that belongs to a different world that's apart from the human world. He's absolutely obsessed with humans, and he finds a human who is equally obsessed with his world, even though she doesn't know it's his world.
You have no idea the restraint I'm showing right now. Like,
Come
I
on.
shouldn't tell you that I sing this song every day.
I was the Little Mermaid growing up, damn it. I loved the Little Mermaid.
I have the red hair. Suck it.
Okay, there you go. Well, mine's faded right now, but I normally have the red hair too.
Come on, Pav. Let's hear it.
Which song? Are you going to sing the I Want to Be Where the People Are?
I want to be where the people are. I want to hear Well, that's
I
not
wanna
right.
see him dance.
I want to see him dancing.
Singing, walking around on us. What do you call them again? Feet up where they run, up where they play all day in the sun, wandering free. Wish I could be part of
What
the
of your world?
Oh, good job, you guys.
All my dogs are going batshit downstairs now. They're like, WTF. Oh,
My dog, my kids, they don't even.
what?
Oh no, we lost her.
Come back.
Jess.
No.
Jess.
We've just had bad luck all day today.
I know. This
This
is
be an
crap.
nightmare.
You're gonna have so much fun editing this,
Oh.
Jason.
I know. I'm not looking. And I was already planning on, hey, I've got the rest of the day off. I'm just going to edit today too. And now I'm like, fuck, I don't want to open this file.
So, have you started working on what was the story? What were you calling it, Jason?
I don't know.
The one that's in the Chronicles world? You called it something. I forget.
I don't know. Justine the Badass something?
Are you doing a Chronicles world?
I think we need to make that the title.
Well, no. Katie actually has a dystopian vampire series that's the Chronicles of the Uprising. So it's not a Samuel Peralta Chronicles. It's a different Chronicles. But Samuel, if you're out there, I want to work with you. I want to be in one of your books because I am a huge admirer and I love you. And yes, we're Facebook friends. Let's talk later. Okay, anyhow, Katie. So
I don't know what happened.
We're gonna have to cut that and then put that up on the page. That way, do a video testimonial.
You should put that on like your profile as your, on your Amazon page. Just like, this is what my fans think.
So Katie and I are attempting to co-write something, and I've kind of dropped out of the loop a little bit because one, I'm super ADD, and we're moving, and we got all sorts of stuff going on, so I've kind of dropped the ball on it a little bit. But she has a super cool dystopian. Is it YA? I consider it YA, but are we not YA? No.
No, the blue ball scene, dude. The blue ball scene. I would not put that in a YA novel.
Fine.
Ask yourself if my 13-year-old can read it, and then that's your answer.
I'm so proud of that blue ball scene, by the way. When I showed it to Jason, I was like, you have to read this.
And I hated it. It's just like, you can't be proud. We hate that. That's the worst. That's the worst thing ever.
See, now I really want you guys to read Sin Eater, though, so that you can read what Jess and I did. I mean, we've got gay priest. We've got nuns having sex with candles. Like, there was no line we didn't cross.
Perfect.
Oh, and Jess just texted me. She lost internet, but she'll try to log back in soon.
Okay.
Aw.
Okay.
It's just bad luck all around today. Just a
It
lot of
has
bad
been.
luck today.
It's
But
crap.
you did get me to sing Little Mermaid, so.
And that is going in the video.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
That's in there.
that might get its own separate distribution right there. So since we have just you, Pav, so Katie and I are going to try to co-write a story, and it's set in a world that she's already created with a character that already exists, and only she was my favorite character. So I was like, you know what, I only write female leads. That's all I do, because I don't know if it's because I'm not very in touch with guys, or if I don't know, but for whatever reason I wanted to do that. And so what we've been doing, at least so far, is kind of writing a scene, and then it bounces back and forth in the Google Docs. You know, she'll add something, I'll add something. Is there a way that you found that works really well for co-writing, or is it just kind of something that you and Jess came up with on your own?
It really depends on the personality of the people involved. I've done a number of co-writing projects, some of them successful, some of them have been scrapped because it just went so badly. Some people write where you have two main characters and one of you takes each character and you just switch back and forth, because that way you don't have to make your voices blend. You know, if you write John and I write Nancy, then you write all the John scenes and I write all the Nancy scenes, and it doesn't matter that it doesn't sound like it's written by the same person. That's a really easy and fast way to work in a collaboration. I've not done that style because I never do the easy thing. Jess and I, the way we wrote, I would challenge someone to find a single sentence in that book that only one of us wrote, because we passed that monster back and forth so many times, chapter by chapter, word by word, sometimes in the same document, writing with each other. Sometimes one of us would write a chapter and then the other one would take it and just tear it apart. That worked well for us. Some people can't handle that. It's intensive time and it's really hard on your ego. I'm co-writing a space opera with SM Blooding, and we're having a hoot and a half. And what we did is we plotted the whole thing together, like beat plot, point by point. We plotted the whole thing together. And then we wrote like the first third, maybe quarter, passing it back and forth so that we made sure we were on exactly the same page. And then she was like, you know what? I can do this fast. If you're okay with it, I'm just going to pound out the rough draft. It'll be rough, but you can fix it. So she took it and she ran. And she did the whole first draft and then passed it on to me. And now that it's back to me, I'm changing every sentence. It's not like I'm not doing a full pass through and adding paragraphs and moving things and changing chapters and writing new chapters to fill in where we need to. But it was easier for her to just sit down and write it and get everything that was in her head out before trying to talk about it. And that's fine with me because I'm able to go back in and fill in the blanks. So I can't say that there's necessarily a right or a wrong way. I wrote a blog post a while ago about how Jess and I did it and why I think it worked so well. That is on my website somewhere. I don't know.
It really depends on how your styles mesh up. Absolutely.
Yeah, and also egos. If one person has a stronger ego than the other, it can be really hard to have somebody come in and go like, that sucks. That's not what I wanted.
I've worked with a couple of other authors before in a co-writing sense, and one of the ones that I've done long-term co-writing with, we have very different styles of writing, and we bank on our strengths. I'm very good at the analytical and the dialogue, and so what I'll do is I will throw down scenes as fast as possible with almost all dialogue. It's almost like a screenplay. No actual settings, no descriptions, nothing. It's just like a running line of dialogue with tags. And then I set up what's happening based on in the dialogue, and he'll come through and he adds all the beautiful flowery language and the descriptions and what they're doing, and we layer over the top of each other like that.
That's similar to what Jess and I do, where she's more action, dialogue, forward momentum. She keeps me going forward. I can write 20 pages about looking out the window and never go anywhere. She keeps us going forward. And then I come in and I add in, like 3 paragraphs of history and 3 paragraphs of setting and, all the histrionic stuff, all the flowers.
Now, what we've done right now working with Jason, we've kind of each taken our own scenes at this point. We're kind of piggybacking off of what each person's wrote, which is not a bad thing either, because if we don't have a direction, neither of us has plotted this, kind of the pantser approach, that works too.
Well, and I've liked what we've come up with so far. It's, I wish that I was able to devote more time to it right at the moment. Oh, you've got a little cutie pie coming in and behind you. Aww. Hi, little one.
I was like, mine are at school. Who's here?
But no, I think it's been going pretty well with you, Katie. It's just, we're kind of at a point where I've got to pause for a little bit. But yeah, I wrote a scene and then she wrote a scene, then I wrote a scene, and we both kind of went back and changed a few things here and there. And I am admittedly terrible at revision. So I like to blast something out, and it might just be in one big, huge block paragraph, and I'll go through and I'll fix all the problems with it, but I have a tough time going in and adding what you were just talking about, the flowery stuff. I have a tough time doing actual revisions. And so it's nice for me to work with someone who is really good with revisions and who's used to going through and layering another another layer onto the story and adding things that way. So it's kind of been a learning process for me as well.
I kind of had to warn you ahead of time because my style is so bare bones to start with that what you see in the rough draft looks nothing like what you end up seeing in a final. It's like night and day, but it's kind of scary if you look at it at first. You're like, "Where's the story?"
Well, and I feel like I'm a kind of a mixture of, Pav, you were talking about how you like to write long, drawn out, or not drawn out, but longer descriptive things. What's that?
Make it sound awful. Thanks.
No, not trying to be awful, but
you're really boring. Long, drawn
You're the boring one, Jess is the exciting one. Okay, I got that. But I feel like when I write, I get stuck into one of those modes where I might be writing a scene and it's for a short story that I'm actually writing right now for Daniel. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I'm on like paragraph 3 of description and I'm like, I've got to get this shit out of here. But I'm stuck there. I'm stuck in that mentality of description. And then other times it'll be all action and dialogue. And I'll go back and I'm like, man, where the hell is the story? All this crap is happening, but you can't see any of it. You can't feel any of it or hear any of it because I haven't given you that background. So I get stuck in those zones and it's tough for me to snap out of them. But
Where are those ones go?
so there's that. Oh, all right. Well, is there anything that you two ladies would like to chat about towards the end of our show here?
I'd just like to let everybody know that we have the Dominion Rising box set on pre-order right now. It's up on all platforms, and it is 22 stories by 26 authors for 99 cents, full-length books. And they're really phenomenal. Daniel, who we've been talking about, is in there. Sam Peralta is in there. Gwyneth White is in there. S.M. Blooding and I are writing the space opera. And just a shocking amount of talent is included in this giant monstrosity of a box set. And what makes it different is that they are full-length novels. So you're not getting short stories or novellas. So if people are interested in sci-fi or fantasy, we have both. We have some steampunk, we have some dragons, we have some fairy tales, we have space opera. Give it a look.
Awesome. Jess, anything you want to chat about?
No, not really. Just canyons. That's all I've got going on right now. Editing everything I've got, everything I've written is in one stage of editing or another. So there's nothing I have out. I'm focusing on editing and canyons. That's it.
Okay, and the canyons is great. I'm super excited to see this released on April 1st. And I do apologize that the show has been a little rocky today with all our technical difficulties. So I appreciate you guys hanging with us and getting through it with us. I know it wasn't super easy. The edited version should be nice and clean for everyone, though. So yeah,
fun. Yeah, it was fun.
Then, we just want to make sure that you guys shoot us links to the projects you really would like linked in this video. The Uncommon projects. Obviously we'll put Canyons up there. Any of your books that you want linked in the YouTube description, we'll have those there for everyone as well.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
So,
All right, sounds good.
well, awesome. Thanks for hanging out with us today, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was great meeting you guys. I'll be friending you on Facebook.
We'll see everybody next
Please
time.
do.
Bye.
Say bye.
Bye.